Hi, good evening, everyone, and good morning to some, to myself. Well, welcome back to the final session of our first semester. As usual, before we begin, take a deep breath in, breath out. No matter where we just came back from, it could be a heavy traffic, heavy rain, it could be the whole day of hectic, busy work. We deserve a good time for ourselves. Just be here, relaxing ourselves, sitting comfortably on the chair, feel our body, have our feet resting comfortably on the floor. Come back to feel our breathing. It's very relaxing and comforting when we remind ourselves to come back to our breathing from time to time. Sometimes even just one breath is enough. While we are talking to other people, while we're in the middle of doing all our busy daily work routine, just take 2 seconds to just remember that, oh, I'm still breathing. Actually, that's a beautiful gift to ourselves, to remind ourselves that we are still having a good connection with our body and our mind. Keep our spine straight, our elbows, our both hands resting comfortably, our shoulders relax. Take one more deep breath. Breath in, breath out. That's a gift to ourselves. It's better than a cup of coffee. All right, now I'd like you to join us by joining our palms together. We pay homage to our teacher. We can recite together. Homage to the Supreme Teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to the Supreme Teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to the Supreme Teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Thank you. Okay, today we come back to the last session, which is for this semester. Oh boy, we have been together for about 3 months now. Yeah, time really flies, 3 months. So we have talked about, actually, for this beginning, we talk about what is the most fundamental principles of Buddhism. No matter we are coming from the Mahayana tradition or we are coming from the Theravada tradition or the Tibetan tradition, some of the most fundamental teachings that we find universals to all Buddhist schools. And I think those are very important because whenever we discuss about different ideas, when we meet with some other, let's say, tomorrow you're going attending a class who is a Theravadan monk, who is a Bhante, and you might find, oh, the teachings are a bit different from what I used to know. Or you attend a Tibetan course and might think, oh, the teachings are so interesting. Always come back to ourselves and ask, what are the principles that they are teaching? You will find they're always coming to the Four Noble Truths, the 12 dependent origination, and all the basic the five skandhas, which is about how the body and mind being grouped together. These are wonderful. Or as long as you catch the fundamental teachings, I think you can go anywhere and learn. I just found out that one of the group members, now she is attending a retreat in Hong Kong, and that is about a 5-day retreat, listening to the Tibetan teachings, Tibetan Buddhism teachings. It's wonderful. She just sent me an email yesterday saying that, oh no, she's going to miss today's class, even though her name is on the, she has high attendance, right? More than 80%. Now she's attending a Buddhist teaching in Hong Kong. So I think I really rejoice in that. Yeah, we don't need to limit ourselves to one specific tradition. So I always emphasize that it's important to expand our horizon. Just for little experience I had. Now, lately I come across to another group of friends actually who are one of the branch of Hinduism. They are actually paying homage to Krishna, which is one of the gods of in Hinduism. And then we talk about Buddhism and Hinduism, and wow, it's wonderful. I mean, there's so many things we can share. So I really appreciate this kind of interaction and dialogue, where we not only understanding what we learn and what we believe, but we open up our mind to listen to others. Why do you live the way you do? Right? Why, like when we're talking about vegetarian, and of course, there's so many things we share, right? We don't eat the fried pungent food, and then like onion and garlic. And there's even more. They don't even like there's one friend who is practicing Jainism, and then he said that he doesn't even take like potato, and those food that coming from the ground, and they don't eat fruits that is picked from the tree. They have very strict rules. So when we come to understand that, well, we are based on the same understanding of ahimsa. Ahimsa mean no harm, right? But why? Why there's still differences when you talk about not harming to other beings? So that comes to the main goal of the course is by understanding who we are, where we come from, and then we learn others and create more understanding, right? But that, of course, has to base on how much we know ourselves. I realize that the more I know others, the more I don't know about ourselves. The more I don't know myself. And then they start to question me like, why do Buddhists don't do this and do that? And like, all right, I never thought of that. I was taught by my teacher, and I was told not to do this, to do that. But sometimes you think about it, why? Right? And they might have the answers, and the answers might be different from yours. So by embracing the differences, we come to understand ourselves even better. So that's always a goal when I learn Buddhism and teach Buddhism, expand our horizon. So that's why I really like speaking in different languages, so we have more interaction with other people. And then in the course, we move on to the history of how Mahayana began, and some of the specific ideas in Mahayana Buddhism, especially Chinese Mahayana Buddhism. Some of the important masters, some of the important ideas. And now we talk about the Bodhisattvas, which are very important in Mahayana Buddhism. And the last week, we talked about Amitabha Buddha, who is everywhere here in Chinese Mahayana Buddhism. You see it everywhere. Okay. So today we're going to continue. I'm going to talk only a little bit before 9 p.m. I will stop, and then we will do a little ceremony just to end the first semester, and we're going to have some little bit of celebration to some of our participants. Okay, there are some questions I received last week. I'm going to go through them very quickly. Okay, this is the question about negative karma. It talks about, okay, what happens to the pre-existing negative karma of someone, right, like us, who are being born in a Western Pure Land? Right? Does it get exhausted while in a Pure Land? Or is it that the recitation of Amitabha's name is a purification practice that eventually will only go to Pure Land once our negative karma is exhausted elsewhere? Okay, I think that's a very good question. It's deep. It talks about who can be reborn in the Pure Land. Okay, first thing is the principle about Amitabha's Pure Land is anyone. Even though you have done many nasty things in this life, and at the end, if you have the chance, the opportunity to get to know Amitabha in the Amitabha's 48 vows we talked about last week, Amitabha mentioned that doesn't matter what you have done or whoever you were, the moment you realize that you want to dependence and then you want to start your journey of practicing, you're always welcome. Of course, there are some conditions, you have to fulfill before you could be reborn in a pure land. But the answer is we don't have to wait until all your karma is exhausted. I mean, the negative karma exhausted. You can bring them with you. So the good thing is when you're reborn, let's say the condition is ripened and you were reborn in a pure land. So the next question that we want to ask is, okay, what happened to my previous karma? Does that mean they're burnt out? Like somehow they're gone? So it's not, right? The Buddhists tell us that that's not the case. Negative karma can never just burn like that. It doesn't just disappear. It will be there. But because in a pure land, it's so pure that there's no chance for them to ripe. I mean, they have no opportunity to experience or any negative consequences of our bad karma when we are in a pure land. All right. At the moment, because you are training our mind so intense that there's no way and no opportunity for us to have any kind of negative thoughts. It's all just pure and positive and wholesome. So as long as we are there, and then we keep accumulating a lot of good merits and good, we call it seeds, right? Wholesome seeds. So it's like initially we have some grain of like impurity in our mind, but then this impurity is becoming more and more insignificant because we are adding a lot more wholesome seeds surround it. So imagine the effect of the original negative seed become less and less significant until it becomes strong enough because of the will of Amitabha as well. And the negative one will slowly transform into something less impact to our life. So that's the whole idea of transformation, right? So at the end, the answer is, did the negative karma exhaust? No, it didn't, but it will transform given enough time. So that's the whole purpose of Amitabha's Western Pure Land. You go there, you wait, you transform, and you come back to our world and you help people. Okay? So that's the idea. Okay, shouldn't we choose not to go to the Pure Land and to remain to become a Bodhisattva? Yes, of course, there's a choice. We don't ask, you don't like, okay. One thing is, don't do one thing, all right, as a Buddhist. If today I become a purist practitioner, the Pure Land practitioner, you believe so much in it, you have strong faith, and the next thing is you go around knocking on neighbor's door and say, oh, welcome to Pure Land, you have to know this, I have to tell you the great news, blah, 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 and you're going to force everyone around you to believe in you. No, that's not the way it works, right? There's so many options in Buddhism. The Buddha taught many, many ways of practicing. So, of course, we can choose not to go to Pure Land and to remain, Bodhisattva is, of course, the general goal, path as a Mahayana Buddhist. No matter where you go, we still practice Bodhisattva idea. If you go to the Pure Land, if you read the text carefully, it said that even when you're in a Pure Land, you still act as a Bodhisattva. You have to, like every day, you have to go out, to make offering to all the Buddhas around in different universe. You have the kind of way to go to different Pure Land and to visit other Buddhas, and then you have to make offering to them. And of course, when you're there, eventually, when your time is ripened, you have to come back to the samsara, to our world, to help different people. So no matter which way you choose, you are still following the Bodhisattva path. It's just like you are driving on a highway and you just stop by a resting area, in the middle of your journey, and you take a rest, and then you prepare all your resources before you move on. So that's the idea. So of course, we're still on a bodhisattva path, and not everyone has to go to Pure Land, right? It's our choice. This is one of the options. So we're talking about 8 consciousness. Is it only number 6 consciousness in Pure Land? No, all 6 consciousness still there, even when you're in a Pure Land. Okay, all the 8 consciousness is still there because you're reborn as a new being. But if you want to talk about the 8 consciousness, well, there are some other classes. I think we have had this talk before, so I'm not going to go into too deep here. Right? Okay, definitely that's the thing. Anything else? I think these are the brief questions we got last week. All right, I will leave hopefully 10 minutes at the end to have a bit discussion. Now I'm going to go on to finish this part of Amitabha. I think it is more important. All right. This is the thing, okay? Now we talk about how the Pure Land looks like, how they develop, and what's the idea of how to get there. Okay, I think that's something that we care more about. Okay, now tell me how good it is, how to get there, right? So there are ways to get there. The most direct way is Nianfo. Nianfo means you chant the name of the Buddha, right? Well, it sounds simple, direct, but actually two ways or two methods of we call it Nianfo in Mandarin, right? To chant the recitation of the name of the Amitabha. So there are 2 ideas here. One is you just chant the name, Amitofo, 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 right? Just chant the name. Keep chanting until like the it's like a mantra that goes around in your mind again and again. And of course, the next thing, the other idea is a vision of you have a whole vision of Amitabha. You visualize the vision of Amitabha in your mind while you chant the name. So there are 2 ways of doing the name. One is just the sound, Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. And then the other one is you have to imagine, you have to have a vivid picture or a vision of Amitabha and his Pure Land. So the visualization and recitation. So these are 2 ways. What the difference? We can talk about it afterwards. Okay, so the Nianfo, right? The principle is, the first thing to talk about, the recitation. How does that work? You have to hold the name. The principle is you hold fast, right? You really focus and you have a strong attention on Amitabha's name. So that's why if you see most of us, we have a piece like we call it mala, right? Mala is like the nianzhu. In English, it's called like a string of beads. Many of us are holding that. When you see I'm holding that, you will know that, most often we are chanting the name of the Amitabha or Guan Yin Pusa, or you're doing your own mantra. So the reason of having that is to help us to focus, because we have to hold fast on the name. Amitofo, 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 Amitofo. This is how we make the rhythm and make us focus. So that's the way of doing it. The reason of doing that is because we are required to do it wholeheartedly, right? Without distraction. Right? And then ideally, if we could hold this state of focus for a period of 1 day up to 7 days, this is stated in the Pure Land Sutra. Amitabha say that, well, if you could do that, at least for 1 day up to 7 days, by the end of this life, then you would be able to be reborn in Amitabha's Pure Land. So actually the requirement is very strict. You have to hold very strong. You imagine that just for the whole day, you need to really be very focused, and your mind cannot be, cannot be distracted. So this is a sculpture of a monk reciting the Nembutsu. It is in Kyoto. Where is it? I think this is in Kyoto. Okay, so what is it depicts this monk, who is a Japanese monk. He was chanting the name of Amitabha He said there are 6 little Amitabha that came out from his mouth. Right? This shows that how he is so focusing on the Amitabha, even until like each of the word Amitabha had become one actual little Buddha that come out from his mouth. This is how focused it is, right? This is just a representation of how we should chant the name of Amitabha. All right, this is an ideal. Well, interestingly, when you talk about chanting Amitabha in Chinese Buddhism, we have at least 8 ways of doing it. Okay, let's go through one by one. Vocal recitation. 名词 means vocal means you use your voice and you can hear your own voice. Like when you're doing a ceremony in a temple, usually we chant it very loud. Amitofo, 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 right? You keep repeating the rhythm and you follow the whole, all the other people in the great Buddha hall. This is called vocal recitation, loud and clear. This is the first way of doing it. And the second way is silent recitation. Of course, you keep in your mind when you're sitting in the bus or the MRT, you keep it silently to yourself, not to let other people hear it. So this is also a way of doing it. And of course, the third one is half vocal, half silent. It's like you are mumbling to yourself, Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. Right? When you're sitting alone, you don't want to disturb your colleague sitting in the next cubicle. You're holding a mala in your hand. It's like very quietly, Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. Like this kind of very half silent, half vocal, right? It's also a way of doing it. Okay, and the next way of doing it is contemplative recitation. Remember, it's combining the voice and the vision of Amitabha. Contemplative recitation means that whenever we chant the name of Amo, Amitofo, you have to vision the image of Amitabha right in front of you. Amitofo, Amitofo, Amitofo. Okay, that's the way. You combine your recitation and your visionary of Amitabha. Okay, and then it's more interesting when it comes to 5 and onwards, right? It's a little bit more, I would say, demanding of our attention, right? 追顶念, following to the highest recitation. 追顶念 means you have to really, the Amitabha, the recitation of the word Amitabha, you have to follow one after another, very quick. Amitabha, 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 Amitabha. You have to like follow one after another without any pause in between. Of course, you can take a breath. All right, take a breath, and then you keep doing it. So that means that you don't stop following the one after another. So this usually we do that. I'm not sure if you have attended one important ceremony in the Chinese temple. It's called 佛气, 7 days of retreat, just to recite the name Amitabha. That's one interesting, we call it 法器, right? The kind of instrument we use. It's like a wooden fish. Someone who is leading the chant, the wooden fish start with a slow tempo, and then it beginning to take up speed, getting faster and faster until like it goes so quick, like you have no chance, you have no opportunity to think of anything else. It's just the voice, the name Amitabha, just repeating yourself. This is 追顶念. It's following the high recitation. The purpose is to let you, not to let you have any chance to think about anything else. You're just there. Okay? So if you have the opportunity, well, of course, you're welcome to New York at our temple here at Chongyang Monastery. We're going to have 7 days of retreat. We are going to do this number 5, following the highest recitation for 7 days. I mean, well, it's just one session, right? Probably half an hour. I think maybe a few sessions each day. So in December this year, we're going to do this. And if you're nearby, if you are staying in New York area, you're most welcome. Go to our website. Anyway, this is my advertisement here. Okay. And number 6, bowing recitation. Bowing means you go to the front, you go to the main Buddha's hall, especially if you have the Amitabha statue. You're bowing, you recite each time, Namo Amitofo, and then you bow, then you stand up. Namo Amitofo, you bow. This is a way of doing it. This is also a way of recitation. And the 7 is more interesting, 10 times recitation. 10 times means that, let's say you have a bead in your hands, right? So you name Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. You recite 10 times Namo Amitabha, then only you count one beat. Then you quickly chant 10 more times of the name Amitabha, you move one beat. Get it? So why are we doing that? Isn't that strange? Yeah, it's a little bit uncommon. It's because when you know that you have to recite the name for 10 times and only you move a beat, that means that you have to be very focused, right? You cannot do this when you're driving. Imagine that. When you're driving, Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. Well, I mean, you either lose count or you lose control of the car. It's either way, right? So there are many people, like I always get this question when I mention about the recitation. Shifu, can I chant the name when I'm talking to my client, when I'm cooking, when I'm driving, when I'm riding a bus? Say yes. But be careful which of the 8 methods you choose. When you're driving, you don't do number 7, okay? You have to focus when you're doing number 7. But when let's say you're driving, you feel like, oh no, I can have a bit of my attention on the Nianfo. Then you do the silent recitation in your heart. You know, driving, your eyes, your attention is still on the road and on your car, but you take maybe 20% of your attention on chanting in your mind. Okay, so be wise. don't take one method and do it any situation, right? This is why we have different ways, 8 different methods of chanting. You see, it's so skillful that you can pick any way that you feel that suit your lifestyle. And the last thing is 十口清. This is even more demanding, a 10 breath recitation. What it does is take a deep breath. And you chant Amitabha, 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 Amitabha until your breath is all gone, right? Finish to the bottom. You stop, take another breath, repeat it for 10 times. Okay? 10 deep breath, 10 times of recitation. This is a way of not just recitation, but I think it's a way also for training your body as well. I've seen an old nun doing that, right? Because there was once I met a nun from Hong Kong, and then she was sitting, and then we were drinking a cup of tea. Every time I saw, every once in a while, she take a deep breath, and then she stopped talking, and then until she finished the breath, she take another deep breath. You know, after 10 times, only she talk. So this also work, but it's a little bit more time and attention demanding. Okay, I've just introduced to you the different ways, you know, of doing the recitation. If you have the opportunity or you're interested, you know, you can study more about this. But the silent recitation and the vocal recitation is what you can do, the most common way, right? And when you're have more time, try to do the others. There's more. I think that's also another kind of challenge to you. All right. So this one, I couldn't see the title. The visual. Okay. Second one is only the visualization of the Amitabha. Right. It is from this sutra, the contemplation of the Buddha of immeasurable life. This is from this sutra. On this sutra, it actually tells you 13 stages of contemplation, right? You start to contemplate the whole area, that is pure gold and flowers and ponds and milks. And then you move on to the next stage. You're gonna getting every stage you move on, you give you a little bit more details. How defined the colors are, how beautiful each of the petal of the flower or lotus are. So they're going to give you more and more detail. So there are 13 stages. At the end, if you go through all of them, and you have a very vivid picture of the Pure Land. So that's the goal of visualization. You need to do that, you know, because I heard some people told me before, you know, just Nianfo, you know, you don't need to do anything. It's not true. You don't just recite the name of Amitabha. You need to know what it looks like. Right? You have to have a map in your mind before you go to travel. You don't just go randomly, and hitchhiking anywhere you stop by, and that's dangerous. You need to know exactly where you want to go, how it looks like, have a vivid picture, form it according to the sutra. So this is also a requirement, right? So they give you 30 stages. The stages involve visualizing the setting sun, to the water and the ground of Pure Land, up to the image and actual body of Amitabha. You can imagine how detailed it is. Of course, when you talk about Amitabha, you have to imagine his boundless physical dimensions, and it requires to have extreme focus. We have to perceive the image as clearly, as if we are looking at our own reflection in the mirror. It's clear, even Amitabha to you, like how it head looks like, how the shoulders, how the robe on the body looks like. Everything has to be clear. So that's a requirement if you want to do the visualization of this method, right? So there are two methods here. All right, so there are two approaches as well. As I think we mentioned before, Pure Land is interesting. There are two ways that they combine together. One is in pretty simple. One is like we are depending on our own effort, and the other way is we are depending on the great vows of Amitabha. One is from outside, one is from inside. All right. So Pure Land approach, usually, especially in Japan, the Pure Land approach is more like you are relying on the power of Amitabha. Right? Why? Because they say that you need to seek a miraculous response from Amitabha. Right? So he's like, Amitabha is someone who has a power outside yourself. And so we strive to see his appearance and contemplate the concept of him. So this requires a very strong faith, right, in the literal existence of the Western Pure Land. Think there's a Pure Land over there, and then think there's Amitabha there waiting to help us, like a savior. So this is more like, as we said last week, they're riding on a boat when we're going to cross to the other shore. We need someone to guide us, to take us. So that is one way. Another way is more like the chant approach. It's like you're riding a donkey, right? You need to push the donkey. You need to walk the donkey, right? This is more like depending on ourselves. So in the chant approach of the practice is we abandon all external expectation, right? And we concentrate on just reciting the name, right? So we aim to achieve some kind of deep concentration, and then we can awake from our delusions during meditation. So there are two approaches. Chant approach is more on self-dependence, and the Pure Land approach is like depending on external power. This is like Amitabha. So how do we blend them together? We usually, if you start by practicing the Pure Land Buddhism, we usually start by the first method, the Pure Land approach. We believe there's an Amitabha, believe there's a Western Pure Land, and then we slowly recite the name until we have our own confidence. You can depend on ourselves. But chant approach is the other way. Is it? No, it doesn't matter whether there's a Pure Land over there. Pure Land is here. It's in your mind. You need to transform our mind to reach the Pure Land inside. Still the Pure Land, but one is external, one is internal. Okay, so these two methods, well, if you ask me how do we choose? Usually we don't choose. We usually start by external Pure Land. And then the more we practice, you realize that, well, the Pure Land could be here. So that realization, then you slowly move towards the chant approach. So doesn't matter. Don't worry. I just want to let you know that we are all going to the same goal, right? To be reborn in the Pure Land. All right. So what did Amitabha promise? He promised that when the practitioner is near the end of life, right, Amitabha will appear in front of them with a host of sages, not just two bodhisattvas, right, next to him, but actually more, like a whole convoy of bodhisattva and Buddha come to invite you, come. That's why Amitabha always use a hand, welcome here, It's left hand. No, you're not left out. Join us to the Pure Land. But it requires that our mind has to be pure at the final moment, and then we'll be reborn immediately in the Amitabha land of ultimate bliss. So this is what is stated in a sutra. So the act of hearing the name, rejoicing in faith, and thinking of him even once grants great benefit and ensures non-retrogression. It means that once you are born there, you are guaranteed that you will gain enlightenment. Well, it doesn't matter how long it takes you. You are sure to get enlightened. So this is a vows. This is a promise given by Amitabha if you choose to go this path. Just to let you know. So, and now we come to the modern world, right? How we use the practice of the Pure Land and Amitabha to adapt to our daily life. Of course, we have some very successful example to look at, especially in the 20th century. We have one important master called Tai Xu. Right, he is from China, and he is what we know to be the most famous Buddhist reformers in the early 20th century. Right, so he perceived Chinese Buddhism as being in decline, right, due to its overemphasis on death and the otherworldly. So at that time, imagine 100 years ago in China, especially in the whole area of China and other Asian countries, Buddhism has an impression of dealing with funeral and helping the deaf, right? So that is the image at that time. And Master Tai Xu, he was the one who came up and said, no, we should not focus on the deaf alone, but the living people is more important, right? And then Master Tai Xu, he purposely, actually, he was criticizing, right? One aspect of the Pure Land Buddhism is because for some people, the practice of the Amitabha Pure Land becoming a reason or becoming some kind of an excuse for people to escape from the very suffering. Say, don't, because for some extreme cases, some people would think that, the world is so much suffering, I just cannot bear anymore. Okay, let's forget it and focus our attention on the next life, thinking about, if I am sincere enough, I have enough faith, I'll be reborn in Pure Land. Whatever happened now doesn't matter. Let's focus on chant the name. Spend a lot of energy and time hoping for a better next life. So this also happened in a long time ago in India. When the time was suffering so much, people will have high hope to the future life. So for Master Tai Xu, this is not the correct mindset. So he wants to bring back to current life. Now, this moment, right? What does Buddhism teach us about living a good life instead of hoping for a better next life? So this is Master Tai Xu criticism on the Western Pure Land Buddhism. Of course, we know that for many practitioners, this is not the case, right? Of course, we hope for a better reborn, but we also try to accumulate good merit in this life. So, of course, they're always, both sides of a coin. Some people take the Pure Land practice as a way to escape. Some people do it more seriously, do it more correctly. So the part that is more negative, that was being attacked by Master Yin Sun. So that's why he came up with the idea we've called a humanistic Buddhism, 人间佛教, humanistic Buddhism, that is more focused on current life, suffering of the people of the modern world, and not to worry too much about the future life, right? So it brings back the focus of the whole teaching of Buddhism. And this is Master Tai Xu, right? So he proposed that, the actual world that we're living now should be transformed into a Pure Land, Don't hope that, let's forget about the world now, it's going to be destroyed anyway, because of the because of global warming, because of the chaos, because of the chaos in the global trade, because of the melting of the Arctic ice and Antarctica ice. So let's focus on the future life. This is a way of pessimistic, very pessimistic. So according to Master Tai Chi, this world should be transformed into a pure land, not the other world, right? So he diminishes the otherworldly element. He said, don't think too much about the other world. Think about this world, right? So he promotes and he also affirms more contribution to the society. What can we do now to improve this world so that it becomes a pure land itself? It's beautiful way of thinking, right? And also later we have Master Sheng Yan Fa Shi from Dharma Drum, Fagusan in Taiwan. He even say that 提升人的品质，建设人间净土. So this is a motto of Dharma Drum in Taiwan. He said, uplifting the character of humanity and building a pure land on earth. So this is a continuation of Master Tai Chi, right? Focus on changing this land into a pure land. So if you go to Dharma Drum, if you go to a retreat, and if you join the activities, you have a feeling that they integrate Amitabha practice, right, with the notion of earthly purification. You chant the name, that is, you have the immediate effect of purify your mind. It calms you so that you can face your problems and sufferings wiser. You have more resources in yourself, you have more confidence in yourself, and then you can help yourself and other people to transform this world together. So this is how now in modern society, how in the modern Buddhism, we integrate the Amitabha practice by transforming our world into a pure land. Okay, this is what is been happening for the past century. So, but we still have a little bit of tension, right? The tension between the traditional Western Pure Land, like, okay, there's a Pure Land there. We have a wish that we can reborn there. And then the modern idea of Pure Land, which is on earth, right? So there are two ideas here. I remember when I was in Japan, I was having a conversation with the Pure Land practitioners. The priest or the Pure Land practitioner, they always question me, why do you do meditation? He said, it's not needed. Someone told me, he said, just chant the name, and after this life end, there'll be no next life. You'll be in the Pure Land for sure. So I cannot really understand this idea. Like, for me, it's like, oh, of course, I want to come back again and again, right? So the reason I chant the name of the Buddha, of any Buddha, right, including Bodhisattva, is to purify my mind so that I can use it in this world, help myself and other people. So my way of doing is I combine the practice of chanting the name of Amitabha or Guanyin Pusa into my meditation practice. So that is what is being adopted in the modern society of transformation. That's a key word, all right? So because we have this is not something that is a modern creation. We can have a support from a doctrine is called the Vimalakriti Sutra, Wei Mo Jie Jing. Okay, it talks about that when a mind is purified, right, the Buddha lines will be purified. This is the Buddha's land. This is Shakyamuni Buddha's land. This world that we are living here is a pure land of Shakyamuni Buddha. Because our mind is impure, we cannot see it, right? So he says that in this Wei Mo Jie Jing, it says that if an individual will purify their mind, they will realize that the inner pure land and the pure land on earth are actually one and the same. The pure land is not somewhere out there for you to go. It's here for you to live, for you to discover, and for you to transform it into your everyday life, in your everyday life. So that's the idea. The modern way of thinking about Pure Land Buddhism is about the mind, how to transform the mind to create a pure land for ourselves. So that's the idea. All right, so Amitabha and the end of life care. Of course, we also use the Amitabha practice, not just to fulfill religious deed, right? we can also deal with the universal problem of death. So that's why in modern temples, you have many temples they have created what they call it the end of life chanting group, right? Some of you might have joined. We've offered the Buddhist end of life care and assist in chanting for the deceased to ensure their rebirth. So this is the way to make it more reachable and then make it actually it's a contribution to our Buddhist community. That let them know that you can let go during your death time. Don't worry. Think about Amitabha, and this is very auspicious for you. And to make it even more practical, we have something called the Water and Land Dharma Assembly. Suido Fahui in many big temples is a ritual complex of universal salvation to transport the dead from this world to the Western Pure Land. So this is the idea to make this idea of helping not just us but the deceased to achieve the goal of going to the Pure Land to practice. Right. So as a conclusion, so we need to have a balance in between. So how to make a balance is to link the concept of the Western Pure Land to the concept of the Pure Land on Earth, right? So the Buddhist reformers, they ensure that this project, like the modern project, is accessible to all believers, either we are traditional believers or modern believers or newcomers. So it is more accessible, It's the Pure Land is in our mind, and if we purify our mind, our land could become a pure land. And of course, we can also wish to be reborn in a Western Pure Land. So both ways are combined and linked together. So this integration achieved through the mind-only doctrine allows for the modernist world affirmation views and literal traditional views to coexist. All right, so Amitabha belief is not just for devotees anymore, it's also for the intellectuals. Right? People who love logical thinking, think about it from a way of purification of your mind. Then you purify your land, the place around you. So this is become more scientific and not just faith, and it can appeal to all different type of practitioners. All right, so anyway, that will be next semester. So just here, that is a conclusion of this semester. We conclude with the practice of Pure Land Buddhism. I think it's beautiful because the practice is simple, accessible, and it could be modernized. Anyone can accept that, right? Combined with Western psychology, especially could help us to deal with a lot of problems like anxiety, depression, loss of connection. So by having to practice the recitation or visualization of Amitabha, it can become a tool to help us to tackle some of the emotional problems that we are facing nowadays. All right, right on time. We got, I don't know, just a few minutes. Anything you have comments or questions before we go into the ceremony? Anything, Louis, Sharon, Janice?
Yes, so there's a question from Li Wen. She says, Amitabha Sifu, how does the effect of chanting a Buddha or Bodhisattva's name differ from the effect of chanting certain mantras? For example, chanting Namo观世音菩萨 versus chanting Om Mani Padme Hum versus Great Compassion mantra, for example.
Okay. It's like you're going to a restaurant, okay? Sorry for making it comparison to the menu in a restaurant. You look at the menu. If you go to a Western restaurant, you probably find like 10 items, 15 items. If you go to a Chinese restaurant, especially in New York, you'll find 400 items. These are the Chinese restaurant. The same way, either you chant the name Amitabha, you chant a mantra, it's like different menu that the Buddha gave us. He said, pick the one that you have the strongest feeling, pick the one that suits your lifestyle, pick the one that you have a teacher around you to teach you how to do that practice specifically. Then that is for you. All right. So there's no higher, there's no lower one. They're all equal. And sometimes we call it 缘分, right? So it means that our connection, because each of the mantra is actually coming from a specific Buddha or Bodhisattva, is a summary of their own teachings. So they kind of compress it into one mantra to represent a whole teaching. The same, the name Amitabha itself had the same effect. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. Find the one that the most touches your heart, you feel comfortable, and it suits your lifestyle, and stick to it. Don't change. Okay, so that's the principle. Yeah, that's it.
Sifu, can you share how do you integrate Nianfo with your meditation practice?
Oh, name for the meditation practice. All right, it's simple. Imagine that there are so many ways of doing meditation. Okay, one, you sit, you count your breath. So we have an object of attention, right? The breathing become our object. There's one thing we catch on. So same thing, if we change that object of breathing into the name of Amitabha, instead of focusing on the breathing itself, now we're focusing on the sound of Amitabha. Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. You're focusing on the sound, but you're doing the same posture of meditation, right? Your back straight, your crossed legs, your palms doing this mudra, this gesture. But instead of focusing on your breathing, you're focusing on your internal voice, which is the sound of Amitabha. Amitabha, Amitabha. No, you keep repeating again and again. So this is how we combine recitation of the Amitabha and meditation.